Benjamin Castle are Americans. Watching the footy.
Liam Ryan saying, kick it my way, I want to jump over the pack, and here he comes! Ryan!
This is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman!
Got the handball off to Myers. Myers looking for the lead of Stengel. Gee, they're good. Gee, they're sharp. Razzle dazzle Rioli.
Oh, who else? McDonald!
From inside the centre square. Boys kick the goal. Boys kick the goal. From inside the centre. Foul. I can't believe
that. Good time of day. This is episode 154 of Americans Watching the Footy, Season 3, Episode 8, our Round 2 preview for 2024. Benjamin Castle here alongside my brother Ethan and my nephew, Ethan's cat Ryan, who is lying flat on his back like a doorstop. Most of the photos I take of him now are him doing this, so you can probably figure out what that would look like. At Cat Named Brian on Instagram. Early plug because it's just very necessary to see just how adorable he is when he does this. So this is an 8-game round, remember, because thanks to the intricacies of opening round, I guess, we've got a lot of 8-game rounds. Rounds 2, 3, 5, and 6 are all 8 games. Oh wait, why not round 4? Because it's the Gather Round. Yay! I am very excited for that again, just so we can spam the Gather Round. And just many, many other reasons, but a few weeks to get to before that. Now, we didn't talk about this last time because it hadn't been official by the time we recorded, but yes, it's the Tasmania Devils, set for a 2028 AFL launch, well, for their AFL side anyway. The VFL side could come in as early as next year or 2026. Traditional Tasmanian colors of green, gold, and red. Interesting Tasmanian Devil-ish logo with the classic state jumper. Not sure if just having the classic jumper is the right choice, just because it seems like kind of a slap in the face of state of origin football. I also just think it's nowhere near detailed enough to be the design of the island. It's missing, what are they called? There's a couple of little islands to the north that are part of the state as well, and I guess those just don't exist anymore. Flinders Island and King Island. I guess Victoria's annexed them, or maybe New Zealand invaded.
Children, remain calm. The Falkland Islands have just been invaded. I repeat, the Falklands have just been invaded.
The disputed islands lie here, off the coast of Tasmania.
I mean, are they disputed? I think it's pretty clear they're islands. With just how much state pride there is in Tasmania and how much they've wanted this, I get why they opted for it. And with very low early membership cost, I believe they've already jumped into 6 figures. Yeah, I think, I'm not going to get all in all those over because it's $10 for stickers and a chance to be, at the front of the line for exclusive merch options. So it's not really a full membership. It's cool. Oh, it is. Don't get me wrong. But it's not these are just all Tasmanians. A lot of it's fans of other clubs that are just yeah, the logo looks cool. I'll pay $10 to have early access. But yeah, it's great that we finally have support in Tasmania. I know our guy, Brian Barish here, who's a Hawthorn member, pitched in. Also, the Devils got support from Jim Cummings. Who is that? The guy who voices Taz. And the Tasmanian AFL boss says Warner Brothers didn't realize that the Tasmanian Devil was a real animal. I want to think that's wrong. Yeah, I'm going to guess it's just some sort of conclusion they came to so that there didn't have to be copyright or trademark stuff or whatever. Just some sort of jab at him. But I don't know. But my reviews, I thought the logo was pretty good. I've seen a couple other designs that are good, but I'm not bothered by the logo. The logo gets a B+. Max Lawton from Fox Footy said that the logo reminded him of the Minnesota Wild, and with the colors, it makes even more sense. I can kind of see that, I guess. With the jumpers, I mean, the jumpers are classic and historic, of course, but if you were looking for something new, I didn't think it was very good. I didn't think
If you really want to include the shape of the island, you kind of sublimate it in where it's a darker shade of green than the rest of the jersey or something. Maybe when they end up looking for a second era jumper will be something nice. And I came up with a design that I'm surprised people liked so much. There were a couple of replies. There was one that was just like, a couple of stripes in the logo. I came up with basically just like striping that forms a giant T, which
reminded me of the Saints clash.
Yeah. I didn't think of that. I thought of the Saints like Sir Doug Mickles round one from last year.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Just replaced the white with the yellow, but I think it would be neat because it like maintains the traditional kind of like style of what a jumper is with the striping, but new colors and a new design. Because like, look, we've got enough like vertical stripes and stuff. I think it would have been a fun idea. And like, if someone wants to take it on, you don't have to pay me all that much to have it.
I would expect that if they did that, it would be like as an alternate, like a gold clash or something. And then I wouldn't be shocked if the white one just had like the Tasmania outline minus those islands, like maybe with the island recolored to green or something like that. I'm just excited for the prospect of a 19th team and hoping that Canberra gets the 20th.
Northern Territory team will be cool, but realistically, it should be Canberra.
Also, it would allow the Giants to focus more on Western Sydney, inland New South Wales, the Riverina.
Canberra's shown their support pretty well
for a team that isn't even theirs.
Yeah, I think they've made a pretty good case. We can call them the Canberra roundabouts. I mean, it's a planned city, and planned cities have a lot of roundabouts.
Roundabouts are good. We need more of them. Feels like we, a lot of the time, just have too many stoplights here.
No, it's more just like the science behind roundabouts. It's like, it prevents like dangerous collisions. If, the only collisions are people getting sideswiped usually.
Yeah. And also, bigger roundabouts can also be good places for public art or greenery.
I am not one of those, Europe does their city so much better than America. Like, I am not that type of weenie. Like, I like that we could actually have cars in our cities instead of just outside them. And I like that instead of having, walkable cities, we have a gas station with 120 pumps and beef jerky. Tying that back in, that is, of course, Buc-ee's, which apparently I just learned is coming to Arizona.
Yeah, so it's getting closer to us. I would be shocked if it ever actually made it to California.
The news just came out like yesterday. Buc-ee's, Goodyear.
Goodyear, okay.
Just give me one on Highway 5 or 99. That's all I ask.
And we're mentioning Buc-ee's also because the care package for whoever wins America's Brownlow will likely include something for Buc-ee's.
Yes, if you win America's Brownlow, we're going to send you
American things.
Yeah, we'll send you some sort of gift with a nice letter. And I was thinking, like, what's the most American thing we can send? And I mean, the obvious thing is Buc-ee's.
Yeah. Imagine like your biggest superstore plus a gas station, just like
not just a gas station.
Yeah, like a gigantic gas station and like the world's biggest snack selection and like very, very good jerky and other things.
And clothing.
Yes, it's pretty much it.
Definitely have to send them like a hat or something. That's definitely the sort of thing like someone will wear that hat at training. I actually feel pretty good about the odds.
And the other thing that I insist on us giving is an In-N-Out gift card because we want something to get people out here to California or at least close to us.
What's your go-to In-N-Out order?
I mean, don't get it as much anymore, but I mean, probably still the double-double with grilled onions and ketchup and mustard instead of Thousand Island. And fries at least like well done.
I pretty much get the same burger, except I also make sure to get no tomato and add pickles.
Pickles, obviously. I'm okay with tomato if you have it immediately. Lettuce, if it's like something that you're taking out, just ends up being really slippery sometimes. But enough with the burger and food discussion because we're getting pretty far off the path here, and the path should be to go straight into these round 2 games, beginning with the Saints and Pies at the G. A Saints home game at the G because it is Spud's game, one of the best causes in the AFL. It's a shame that we only got into this sport after Spud was already gone, and you can tell just how much people still revere him, not just for what he did on the field, but for the advocacy that he displayed off it. And it definitely rubs off on the bounce crew and being the advocates of bounce that we are. Things like giving defenders the props with Spud's golden fist and just how they kind of have their banter about the game. I can understand just like how much we would have enjoyed just being able to get to know this guy.
Yeah, he seems like a lot of fun. Like one of the better old school footy people. Because when you think of like old school footy personalities and stuff, you think of like people being crotchety, like, they have to do everything the way I did. And he doesn't seem to.
He didn't. He didn't. He didn't seem like that. So Spud's game is our Thursday nighter, probably just a few hours after we upload this. 7:30 p.m. local. For Americans, 4:30 a.m. Eastern, 1:30 a.m. Pacific on Fox Soccer Plus. Saints, of course, coming off their close loss against the Cats. Pies 0-2 after losing to Sydney.
I thought the Saints easily played the best of any team that lost this round and deserved way more recognition. And like Fox Footy's report card grades for the round, like what are we doing here?
What was their grade? Like a
C plus. And let me go through a couple of the more ridiculous ones out of this.
Did the Saints have the same grade as North?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, nitpicking, but I'd give Frio an A instead of an A plus because that first quarter was awful, even though I left so impressed with them. The Giants only getting a B plus.
I think the inaccuracy was the big one.
I think center clearances, they did get beat on.
And then did Carlton got an A plus, I think?
No, Carlton did not get an A plus. Carlton got a B plus.
Okay.
Which seems fair.
Yeah, okay. Never mind that.
Or no, they just got a straight B.
Oh, okay, wow.
I probably would have given a B plus. Port got a B plus. Yeah, the Saints getting a C plus. No, the Saints were better than a C plus. Yeah, and North was worse than a C plus.
I mean, you sang Liam Henry's praises very loud and clear, despite him not having, the most efficient game, just a very noticeable player whenever he was carrying the ball, and that's something that often doesn't get the same sort of credit in the stats. And he's going to have a partner in crime probably on the opposite wing because Jack Sinclair looks set to return from his calf injury.
I think this could be a week where people really appreciate Sinclair, not just because he missed this past game, but also because, the comparison of him and Nick Dacos, both ball-moving defenders. I mean, Dacos is kind of every position, but
I would almost consider him at this point, see if you could have more of a comparison with Josh, considering all the time that Josh spent on the wing. And he has not had a great start to the year out there. So big matchup for him, for Steele Sidebottom to get back on track. We were talking about how Sidebottom and Crisp, such important players all of last year, and through the final series, looked actually old for the first time in a while this past week against the Swans.
It really, last episode we discussed the Polished Turd Award, and the only polished turd candidates that I could even come up with
for Collingwood
were Nick Dacos and Braden Malin. They were not good.
No, and I think we gave it to Dacos.
Yeah.
Wow, an award that Nick Dacos might not actually win.
Remember, we are not making our America's Brownlow results public. In fact, I'm not even looking at them until the end of the year. We're just kind of hiding them after each week. But we will make sure to publicize the polished turd throughout the year.
Definitely.
And people seem to like it.
Yeah, got some good early response, so we'll definitely keep people up to date on that. Now, we talked about the wing as being a big problem area for Collingwood, but that's not their biggest problem.
Yeah, their biggest thing is they just can't stop tall forwards. And facing Max King this week, that could be really, really bad.
It's not just Max King. Tim Membry was the best forward in that game at Cardinia Park. And so it's the combination of them, plus Mitch Owens being able to play above his size, plus maybe if Matthias Filippo wants to come up and crash things. This could be a real problem spot. And with Nathan Murphy having no return in sight, a lot of weight falls on Darcy Moore to be able to lift one-on-one, which just isn't his thing.
No, he's much better in a roaming role. So is Isaac Quainer. So they're going to have to figure out, maybe you come up with some sort of creative outside-the-box solution instead of just throwing someone into a role that they're not really made for. I don't think they're going to go with just an expected solution, which I like.
Well, one thing that would be expected would be to give a Premiership player a shot back in defense.
Are we talking about Billy Frampton or John Noble?
Well, Noble could return, but wouldn't be a type, to take on, a tall one-on-one in the back six. That would be Frampton. And maybe then he'd be in for Charlene Dean. The other thing that's been noted is Ash Johnson has been confirmed to already be returning to the VFL to try and regain his form. So, to me, that screams Reef McGuinness opportunity.
Yay.
And with McGuinness being a pretty versatile tall, I wonder if maybe they throw him back at times for some support.
Yeah, I guess. I think of McGuinness as doing more work forward, but he can go back. He is skilled in those roles. He's a versatile player, which makes him a great sub. So I could be talked pretty easily into that one.
Now, last week's sub for the Pies was Finn McRae, and I'm hoping that he actually gets full game opportunity again. Collingwood are currently listed as 7.5-point favorites as we look in terms of the spread on Bovada. I wouldn't want to bet against Collingwood at the G, but I really want to see this lineup here and see just how the Pies end up trying to solve their tall situation.
That seems like an appropriate line, though.
I mean, we talk about Collingwood getting all these close wins. How about they just get a win in the first place?
I'd prefer if they don't.
I mean, we got nothing against the Saints. And by the way, this is these teams' first meeting at the G in 3 years, and the first with the Saints as the home team since round 3 of 2016.
By the way, here's my opinion on the Saints I've come to. I don't think they're the most exciting team to watch.
I mean, especially with Ross Ball being their MO.
Yeah, but they're easy to pull for. They're a nice story. It's really hard to have anything against them.
Yeah.
I hope they're good.
I mean, think about their home and away game that they had at the G last year, their 150th anniversary, and they celebrated their flag.
Singular.
Yes, I said flag.
I know. I just wanted to make sure everyone else did.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. I just also like the idea of this list having this ability to play Ross Ball, but also having the explosiveness of someone like Jack Higgins and Darcy Wilson as well going into game 2 here. They could really have the ability to just kind of break lines open and wreak havoc on an already tenuous back structure that Collingwood has.
Now, before we finish, we're going to play a little game.
Oh, did the teams just come out for...
Yes, they did, and you're not going to look at them. What I'm going to do...
Are you going to tell me how many changes there are for each team?
Yeah, and you're going to try to guess, and then a couple of them we'll just do a little, like, fill in the blank, sort of like Mad Libs type thing. All right, let's see. For Collingwood, I guess if I give some of the clues with just like this, the official AFL article, it would give some of it away just by what positions and how they're described. But
how many changes? 3. Do we have Frampton in for Dean?
Yes.
Okay. Has Finn McRae been elevated?
No.
Is he an emergency still?
No, not at all.
So is John Noble then?
He is an emergency.
Okay. Well, Johnson's out. Is Reef back in?
Yes.
So is that all of them then?
No, that's only 2.
Oh, Tom Mitchell back in.
Yes, but who is coming out?
I mean, we mentioned Finn McRae is out.
That's not it.
Management of side bottom?
Management, yes. Side bottom, no.
Pendlebury.
No.
Well, it's not Crisp. They're not risking his streak. Who is it?
Will Huskin Elliott, though he is listed as an emergency.
Okay. And the Saints?
All right, this one I think we can do the fill in the blank and it'll work out. So this starts, Collingwood is recalled grand final pair Billy Frampton and Tom Mitchell for Thursday night's game against St. Kilda, while the Saints have dropped midfielder blank.
Ooh. Trying to remember, who was it that was subbed out last week? Is it the person who was subbed out last week?
I don't remember who was subbed out, so...
Wow, great job remembering the Cats game.
I remember that we subbed out Stengel for Mana.
Who was there? It was Seb Ross who was subbed out for Lance Collard last week. Is Collard retained and Ross out?
No and no.
Really? Wow. Are there like any injuries that we didn't know about?
Nope. They just have a couple of guys omitted.
Very interesting.
Let's start with this. Who are their 2 ends?
Okay, so Sinclair.
Yes, that's obvious.
Is it a younger or older guy that's an in?
Older.
Well, obviously it's not Dan Butler. He's got to regain time in the 2s. Is Zach Jones healthy?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I wonder if Nathan's going to be on this game for 7. Maybe you can talk about his brother.
And then Wes Collard is one of the omissions, but again, included as an emergency. Who is the other? Who is that midfielder?
The midfield out. They didn't take out Darcy Wilson right away, did they?
No.
Thank goodness. I mean, I don't think of Ryan Burns as a midfielder. Plus, he got a lot of the ball last week. I was surprised we didn't mention Burns in our recap.
Yeah, he was fine.
He was mentioned a lot on the broadcast.
He was solid.
Yeah, and also one of the rarer players to come from Manly, or at least he was born in Manly. Oh, don't tell me they dropped Windhager.
No, he's not even really a midfielder at this point.
I mean, he's a tagger and a forward and can do a lot of things. Is this a management? This isn't the management of Brad Hill.
No, it is just an omission.
Plus Hill can run rampant on the wing as like an extra there too, kind of linking up.
It is not Brad Hill.
I guess that kind of leaves Brad Crouch, but I don't think they
It is Brad Crouch.
Whoa!
I mean, he didn't do much last week.
Ross ain't fucking around.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, but
Okay. Man,
I think we should do this more often when we can.
yeah.
I think just any of these like fill in the blank type games and guessing games are fun. Anytime we can make each other guess something.
Yeah, Crouch was limited to 15 disposals, but 4 tackles and 5 clearances last week. So, not much of the ball, but decent impact when he had it. Interesting call. A lot for us to think about here, and we'll probably say more as the other teams get announced.
All right, Friday night footy at the Adelaide Oval. Cats visiting the Crows. This one is 1:40 a.m. our time, 4:40 a.m. on the East Coast. In Australia, 7:10 p.m. local time in Adelaide, and 7:40 in Victoria. This will be a Fox Sports 2 game. Crows at 0-1 after a wet loss to the Suns. And the Cats are 1-0 after grinding out a win over the Saints.
When these teams met in round 8 last year down the highway, the Cats won by 26. The taller forwards took some really risky shots early on, like low chance shots, and just were overconfident for a lot of the game. But the midfield really lifted in the second half. Really strong closing effort from Tanner Bruin, and good work as well from Tom Atkins and Mitch Nevitt. Waiting for Nevitt to really shine as one of those other contested ball winners. I mean, great start from Jai Clark there, but Nevitt is a guy that I'm hoping just gets some of that opportunity and support.
Last time they played at the Adelaide Oval, the Crows got off to a big lead and held on to win by 12 in round 1 in 2021. Ryan had a really bad turnover that day. I just remember that. It was like a kick out on the full under no pressure. Taylor Walker kicked 5 goals.
And remember, this was after the Crows had brought home the spoon in 2020, so it was quite a shock. The home teams won the last 3 meetings going back to that 2021 meeting.
My thing was, remember, last year's team was terrible on the road. Geelong was 0-4-1 outside of Victoria. Well, not counting the second time we've used it.
Maybe third already.
The one tie was more the Swans not finishing chances, and winning out of state is hard. Honestly, if they can just go win 2 games out of state, I'll be all right with it. I'd like 3. I'd take 2.
3. Take it or leave it.
I would absolutely take that. I mean, considering, one of the trips is the Gabba. You've also got the Suns in Darwin. You got the Swans away. It's not an easy set of games, but you got to win a couple if you want to be a serious competitor this year.
You were telling me, though, off the record, well, now it's on the record, that this is not a trip where you would expect the Cats to win, and Crows are currently favored by 12.5. That seems a bit high. It does seem a bit high, but also, the other thing I remembered you saying is you didn't want to face the Crows after a loss. Well,
I mean, they did start 0-2 last year. Hopefully, it's another slow start for them. But yeah, it's not like I'm coming into this expecting to win. I'm not saying like, oh, we're definitely going to lose, but I'm not like bullish about this. Doesn't help that Tanner Bruin is questionable with a foot injury. I assume if he doesn't go, because it sounds like Jack Bowes is going to need another week, I would think you move Mitch Duncan up and then add in Jed Buse to the defensive mix. That seems to be the most logical progression there.
Seems right. Again, I'm also just going to keep advocating for more opportunities on the inside for Nevitt. Meanwhile, for the Crows, looks like Taylor Walker should be back at this point. Remember, he tweaked his back last week while picking up his kid in a very baseball player injury.
Said many times, baseball players have funny, stupid injuries.
The one that more people know is Sammy Sosa throwing out his back while sneezing. The one that people might forget from our childhood is Detroit Tigers reliever Joel Zumaya jamming his thumb on his pitching hand while playing Guitar Hero. Now, the one about John Smoltz burning himself while ironing a shirt that he was wearing, that is fake. That one is false. But I could see a baseball player being dumb enough to try it.
You had to see John Smoltz as that. Ooh, other good dumb baseball injury. Derek Barton cracking his head open, diving headfirst into the shallow end of a pool.
Oh, geez, Derek Barton, you remember that fan club still?
We got your back, bro.
The thing that stood out last week in terms of selection is that Jake Saligo belonged in the 22, came in as the sub, and his physicality through the middle was really appreciated. in the same way that the big body of Luke Pedlar proved very useful, largely from like within the 60 meters to goal. With like the smaller bodies that are crafty and guys like Isaac Reichen and Josh Rochelle. And while Rory Sloan is out with his eye injury, working out maybe what kind of goggles he might want to use on return, hey, we know an American who could help with that. But those sort of supporting guys like Saligo and Pedlar just make sense to have. And when the game was so ground-based last week, it really showed. It was Lockie Gallant, I believe, who came out as the sub, and I would just immediately say, give Saligo the opportunity over him, regardless of weather.
I want to say something real quick about wearing goggles, actually. So you've seen like basketball players or Sam DeConing having to wear like the Batman mask after breaking their nose. And high school basketball player that, as I'll have to deal with that this year, actually played pretty well with it on. And his coach had said that basically he just told him, like, wear it around the house in the days leading up to the game to like get used to it, which is smart. So, if you're going to have something like that, just get used to wearing it regularly. That's the advice I have.
You also got to get over kind of like the sort of psychological barrier that you have when you're wearing it.
Yeah, and I think the easiest way to do that is just wear it.
For the second year in a row, North and Frio are meeting in round 2. This time it's at Marble. That is your early Saturday game, so 1:45 p.m. Victorian time. Breakfast or brunch footy for Westerners, 10:45 a.m. For Americans, that's still Friday, 10:45 Eastern, 7:45 Pacific on Fox Soccer Plus. Programming alert, I may not be home for much of this game.
I mean, I probably won't be home for the start of the Saturday action. So what's going on Friday? NCAA Women's Tournament first round is being played at Stanford, and Maryland is there as the 10 seed. So I'll probably end up watching on my phone during the second half, assuming Stanford is blowing out Norfolk State. And we'll probably also be watching some of the men's tournament games on my phone as well. But that's going to be going on. So you'll probably have to take the lead on that game.
Yeah, well, this is March. And why Maryland? Why is that a big deal? Because that's our dad's alma mater, and he worked for the men's basketball team there.
Also, I put out a post on my personal Substack, like basically listing everyone with Bay Area connections that's in the NCAA tournament this year, both men's and women's. And I realized, looking through the women's roster, I think there are more women's players from Australia.
That might be like a nice little thread to put together on our Twitter.
There's a lot. So the way recruiting tends to work on the men's side, most teams, they'll look more at guys in their local area, but they'll look everywhere. On the women's side, you're looking in like your immediate area, a couple of neighboring states, and overseas. Whether that's Europe, I forget which team it was, like half their roster was from Spain. It was one of the really low seeds. Might have been, I don't want to get this wrong, but
yeah, there's a lot of overseas recruiting in women's basketball. I mean, it's much more built up in a lot of European countries, definitely getting more to it in Western Europe. And then in South America as well, Brazil has been a women's basketball power on the international stage. Big, and one of the most notable players this year for the currently undefeated South Carolina team is Brazilian, and missed a couple of South Carolina's games to see if she could make the Olympic roster for this upcoming year.
I think it was, Texas A&M Corpus Christi has 6 players from Spain.
Whoa.
They also have one from Russia. My favorite thing about these, on the roster, it lists like their prior school, and, for Australia, a lot of them are like Center of Excellence or NBA Global Academy or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's based in Canberra.
Yeah. But the funniest one by far is this girl from Russia. Like, what was your school? School number 9. By far the best thing about communism.
Is that like soup number 5?
No, it's not penis soup.
Ah, okay.
Filipino thing. But it's just like a lot of times they name things just, Labor Camp 37. Yeah, they don't name things after people. They just give it a number, and it's just like, I don't know, something about it's really funny to me. I mean, communism as a whole is funny to me, and the people that actually like simp for it are really funny to me.
But I do want you to make that thread. Players on both the men's and women's teams in the NCAA tournament who are Australian. Obviously, of course, we got to plug St. Mary's here on the men's side because they have, I believe, 3 Australians on their roster, including one of their starters, Alex Dukas from Geraldton. And I think he's a Frio fan.
I know they went to a Western Derby a couple years ago.
Yeah, well, their former media director is now over at Stanford. Maybe you'll see him actually, Brian Brownfield.
Yeah, I think he's doing football stuff.
Yeah, well, reach out and see if he'll be there on chat. Yeah, for sure. Because he got into Frio as a result of these guys, Dukas and then a couple others. But obviously, you think about how this matchup was last year out west. A 1-point Canada's win to start 2-0, another huge game for Harry Sheezel as well as Luke Davies-Uniacke. Sheezel had this late goal line save to preserve the lead.
Oh, it was like a really high IQ play, too.
Yeah, well, if he rushed it, it would have been a draw. We would have had a chance to sing the song, but North wouldn't have had the chance to sing theirs. Became the second player ever with 30-plus disposals in each of his first 2 VFL, AFL games. And at the very end, you had Dan Howe deliberately kicking the ball out of bounds, but the siren sounded just before, and it looked like the right call was made. And, I mean, they put out extra video to show, yeah, that was right. It was North's first true road win since late 2021. North defeated both Western sides in back-to-back games and both by a goal.
One of those is a bigger achievement than the other.
Yeah, and it only took 22 weeks for North to win again because Nick Larkey said, fuck our tank.
They were up, I think, 17 or so, and then Frio made the late push.
Yeah, then at the very end, they just had to hunker down defensively, and they did. We had a lot of encouragement out of that game, and hopefully we can find some more out of this one. But defensively, it's going to be tough, especially with Josh Goder out for the season after doing his Achilles. So much for my sleeper. That's a -2 there.
I mean, it's more an incomplete than anything. I would just call it incomplete.
All right, I'll have to repeat that for credit next semester then. North could be getting back any or all of Luke McDonald, Biggie Nuon, and Jai Simpkin, most importantly. Yeah, Simpkin's kind of a big deal because without him, I think there's a good chance for some guy to get into the 40s again.
You're going to need to do something to stop Caleb's run. You're going to need to tag him.
Who would North's tagger be?
Great question.
Wardlaw, if healthy? I mean, he's got the physicality. Would love to see him just kind of stay on that task.
Honestly, on just a speed and endurance standpoint, I think Sheezel would be a damn good tagger. Even if he's not the most physical player, I think he'd be up for it. I don't think they'd do it because it would mess up so much of their structure otherwise.
That's why I'm thinking Wardlaw. Or Green. I don't think Greenwood has the endurance for it at this point, does he?
He is a former basketballer.
Fair enough. That's going to be the big thing there, though. It's not like Frio's coming into this game extremely healthy either, though.
You do know he is a former basketballer.
Oh, absolutely. Hugh Greenwood's a former basketballer. So is Tom Fullerton. Scott Pendlebury's got a basketball background. Ollie Dempsey even.
Mm-hmm. Hugh Greenwood played at New Mexico. They're in the tournament.
Yeah, the Lobos. One of the
6 bid Mountain West.
Would have been one of the last teams in otherwise had they made it at all. Thrilled that.
No, I think the guy from the committee had said they wouldn't have been in, which would have been bullshit.
Yeah, 6 bid Mountain West.
It happened. We did it.
New Mexico is also a place that has had like great home court stuff in the past at the Pit. Like you go to Albuquerque for the food, but you also go there to see a game at the Pit.
You go there to lose.
Yeah. Switching over to how Frio looks, though. Still not clear on what it is for Oscar McDonald on his knee. They haven't said it's an ACL, but treatment's pending, no timeline there. You'd think that maybe you'd have Brendan Cox go back. Oh.
He's hurt too.
And not just hurt, mid-season hurt.
It's like a pretty significant hamstring injury.
Yes, and not close enough yet to get Heath Chapman back, so some debut opportunities come up. The one that stands out is one of their next generation academy graduates in Josh Draper.
The more I think about this, realizing how shorthanded Frio's going to be, as much as I like their core, and as much as I think they will run through the midfield with ease, because that's what GWS did last week, I don't know if this is going to be so easy. They could honestly lose this game. I could see how it would happen. I do think they're going to win.
And the odds makers like it too.
Yeah, 14.5 is a little higher than I'd put it, though, now that I really consider it.
Yeah.
You know who I haven't thought about in a while? Griffin Logue. What's his, injury timetable? Is he out most of this year?
Still another couple months probably for his ACL. That happened in the Cats game. I believe as I was driving you back from the airport, and you were just telling me, shit, Logue did his ACL. Yeah. I mean, 'cause you knew it immediately.
I just thought of it because, these are 2 teams he's played for, and I hadn't thought about him in
Yeah, I mean,
in a really long time.
yeah, Darcy Tucker, I guess, would be there too, playing against his old side.
He got off to a good start last week and then kind of faded.
Yeah,
So did Zach Fisher. That's who I was really thinking.
yeah, the former Blue. In terms of the forward mix, obviously, Brendan Cox played forward last week. Are we going to see Matt Taberner surface?
I think we might.
I mean, it's either Taberner or Patrick Voss. And Voss was one who we were surprised didn't get a look at the AFL level from Essendon last year, despite good goal-kicking form there. So, I mean, I would honestly want to see the new blood there in Voss, but I also just wouldn't be shocked if Longmire said, you know what, let's see if we can get some go with the experience here and bring Tabs back in. The other one to watch in terms of a return is how close is Brandon Walker. Remember, he tore his patellar tendon near the end of last year. If he can come back in, there's definitely a spot for him with Carl Warner kind of having an oatmeal brain.
I mean, I don't know how bad it actually is and what his timetable is going to be, Warner.
I just remembered Brandon Walker was born in Ghana.
I did not remember that at all.
But yeah, definitely a spot there for him in the halfback and through the middle. He's definitely got the motor for it.
Just Freo's got a pretty long injury list right now. That's my point.
It's a West thing.
Hawthorn taking on Melbourne at the MCG. Speaking of injury lists, Hawthorn. This one is your Saturday afternoon, so 4:35 locally. For us here, it'll be 10:35 p.m. Friday. It'll be 1:35 a.m. on the East Coast. Another Fox Soccer Plus game.
Hawks lost to Essendon last week. Melbourne 1-1 after pretty soundly defeating the Bulldogs. Now, the Demons have definitely had the better of this matchup as of late head-to-head. Beginning with their semifinal meeting in 2018, they've gone 7-0-1 in the last 8 meetings. They had a draw round 18 of 2021. Hawthorn had 2 draws in their final 6 games in 2021. The last game of the year, Sean Burgoyne and Alistair Clarkson's send-off was also a draw. That was against Richmond, I think. Yes, and Burgoyne had the chance to be the hero in that too.
That's right.
Unlike a lot of games that Hawthorn played last year, they got off to a bad start in round 9 when they fell to the D's by 54. They were down 34 at the end of the first quarter, having scored a single point, and then played them even in the second half. If only they played with that pressure and intensity they had then from the beginning. Round 23 was just a lot more fun of a game. A 27-point Demons win where Finn McGuinness ended Clayton Oliver's streak of 5+ clearances at 53. However, they did not have Jai Newcomb. So Christian Petrarca and Jack Viney had a very easy time. The big highlight for Hawthorn in that one was that my sleeper Henry Hustwaite made his debut and had a couple goals. And I know he's being considered for this week after missing out last. So, I mean, the matchup history is there for him. The other thing I remember is Jake Melksham having 3 goals and just patrolling the 450 very well. And he tore his ACL in Sydney the next week.
What's his timetable?
He's out for the year.
Damn.
I mean, you think about, some of the older guys on the list that just had locked down spots late on. You had Melksham. You had Joel Smith. I love looking at venue streaks, and this is a pretty significant one. The 35th of 36 meetings that these teams will have had at the MCG since 2000, aka since Waverley Park was closed. And the only meeting elsewhere was because of COVID in 2020. So yeah, about that Hawthorn injury list, Ethan, how's it looking? Any nearby timelines?
It's going to be another 6 weeks for Will Day. Another 7 for Chad Wingard. Cooper Stevens is a test.
Yeah, but are they going to... There's no chance they're going to select him. This is Hawthorn.
Bailey McDonald should be available. He's had a stress reaction or fracture in his femur or something. James Sicily did have his suspension overturned. It's now just a fine. It's honestly one of the funniest tribunal cases ever, that his argument was, I didn't kick him very hard, which is something a little kid would say, but Andrew McGrath also was yeah, I didn't really notice, which probably helped him.
They actually disallowed McGrath's evidence.
Yeah.
So it made even less sense. It just felt like it made no sense whatsoever. And just the first thing I thought of was Patrick from Band Geeks.
Kicking? Oh, I want to do some kicking.
The thing that I always remember about that is the aftermath in which Patrick ends up having his body stuffed into a trombone.
Whoever's the owner of the white sedan,
You left your lights on.
With Sicily in there, I mean, maybe there's less of an opportunity for Ethan Phillips to get his debut, but he was an emergency in the first round.
On Melbourne's side, Harrison Petty's likely available. He played 3 quarters in the VFL and completed running tests, but I don't know who you take out. I would probably take out Tom McDonald out of the back. I mean, McDonald looked pretty good this past game. Looked like he actually belonged again. Maybe then you'd move him to the sub because he's versatile, but on the older side. Yeah, or maybe you make Petty the sub. I mean, if you're trying to work him back in, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because again, versatility there, and I mean, it seems like they're pretty committed to him playing forward. And with Marty Hoare being back and Ben Brown looking like himself again, including with the Chariots of Fire run-ups, of course, I wouldn't want to mess with too much. I'm looking forward to Marty putting more people on Hoare Island.
You are a smelly pirate hooker. Why don't you go back to your home on Hoare Island?
No timetable yet on Charlie Spargo. Came up sore in one of his Achilles tendons after the Swans game, but didn't look like it really hurt him so much last week. These are currently listed as 23.5-point favorites. If the Hawks are going to overcome things, don't have Finn McGuinness as the sub.
Yeah, and Jai Newcomb needs to be dominant, not just okay. Because last week he was just kind of okay. You know, I am a massive Jai Newcomb supporter. He just wasn't all that impressive last week.
I think Connor Nash might have been the better of the guys there. And if you want somebody to be able to physically match up with the Melbourne midfielders, I love the idea of just kind of stacking the midfield with bigger bodies like Nash and Hustwaite.
You know, Benjamin, 78% of our listeners are between 18 and 35 years old, so they probably want to start a podcast like we did.
How do you know that number, Ethan?
Thanks to the analytics we have for Spotify for Podcasters.
Formerly known as Anchor, sorry Frio fans, Spotify for Podcasters has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. No fancy software needed.
It's so easy you can edit it while drunk.
And Spotify for Podcasters doesn't just allow you to upload to Spotify, you can also distribute your podcast on platforms like Apple, Stitcher, and more, just like we do.
Best of all, it's completely free.
Not only is it free, you can even make money from listener support or ad revenue. Hint, hint.
Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to podcasters.spotify.com to get started today.
And we're back on episode 154 of Americans Watching the Footy. Once again, I'm Ethan Castle.
I am Benjamin Castle.
Brian Harambe got bored lying on his back and is now chilling in the windowsill.
Isometric exercise. Care to join me?
We're on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and stuff at Americans Footy.
Personally, I am at Benjamin HK01 and Ethan is at Castle Media.
And Brian Harambe is on Instagram exclusively at Cat Named Brian.
So jumping back into things here with the Saturday night game. Again, no overlaps in these 8-game rounds. Sydney and Essendon have played a lot of close games in recent years. I believe 8 of their last 9 meetings have been decided by 10 points or fewer.
The one was a blowout, but most of them have been really good.
Yeah, and last year's was definitely one of those. Both of the last 2 meetings were excellent. 2022 was Essendon's only win head-to-head out of the past 5 meetings, an 8-point win where Essendon stormed home with 5 of the final 6 goals. I think Nick Hind might have had a sealer. It was 15-5-94 to 12-14-86, so accuracy or lack thereof was the story there, along with Essendon just getting the better of contests in the fourth quarter.
Last year, the Swans held on to win by 2 at Marvel, 101-99, despite allowing 5 goals to Kyle Langford, and also Essendon being plus 22 on inside 50s, and just not be able to get off decent shots at all. The big negative about that game was that it ended up being Buddy's last. He injured his calf and was subbed off and announced his immediate retirement 2 days later. Amazing is that the Swans just haven't missed much without him. I mean, look, he was old,
but still just kind of having him out there, just the presence of him kind of kept eyes on him from defenders. And Logan McDonald especially has really just kept up, taken that mantle of their top forward target. I'm hoping the Swans can lock him in soon. I mean, the Swans have battled a number of injuries over the past couple of years. They were slowed down a lot when they had the defensive outs last year, especially when they're without Dane Rampy, who just makes winning plays. That's one of our most commonly said things about any individual player. His name is Dane Rampy, and he makes winning plays.
He just gets shit done.
It's kind of that simple. And remember, the Swans have gotten off to this 2-0 start with wins over real solid teams without Luke Parker and Taylor Adams. Adams is still a week or two out, and Parker's going to be assessed in a couple weeks, still recovering from his broken arm. Good news is that the celebrator himself, Tom Papley, should be available. So even with that knee knock that he suffered, don't expect many, if any, changes for the Swans. Things have worked, but you had the same substitution the past 2 weeks as well. Joel Marty out, Sam Wicks in. I think this is another chance for Marty to have a huge game. Definitely got back into stride against Collingwood, and with Essendon's backline consisting of Ben Mackay and moving on.
I mean, in terms of actual defenders, ball movers, they've got guys.
They've got McGrath, obviously, who had gotten to the 30s this past week, but not a one-on-one defender can take somebody with the build like a Marty. And meanwhile, on the other side, I would love for Robbie Fox to continue that sort of annoyance job and maybe try to help tie up Mackay or another one of those better marks in the back. If it worked against Jake Lieber, then it could work against just about anybody.
The injury list for Essendon is significant for this week. First off, Mason Redmond has a 1-game suspension for striking Jai Newcomb.
That was accepted, so no extra schnitz there for David Zita.
Zach Reed pulled his hamstring last week. He's out 4 to 6 weeks, but Jaden Laverde should be back. So should Nick Himes, so they have options there. We like the Showerhead's performance, and now he's out 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, Matt Guelphy injuring his calf. 2 goals, 4 assists, and immediately out.
Look, the footy gods are telling him, no, you don't get to do assists. Only one person gets to do assists, and it's not you.
You'll face him in the country game. If we let you. I think Darcy Parish will be back, but that's more of a center square job. I'm looking for the Goblin. Or what do we call him?
Not Dead Ben.
So if you may remember when Essendon were announcing that Ben Hobbs was going to make his debut a couple years ago, they did it with the black and white photo. That's not how you use black and white photos.
The Eagles have been doing this lately too.
If you are putting photos in black and white, just the instant thing that you're thinking is, this guy's dead. When the Basketball Players Association announced that CJ McCollum was taking a leadership position, from an organization like that, if you see a black and white photo of a player, you think the worst.
No, I liked, a couple of weeks ago, someone just tweeted a photo. It was Mark Hamill, 75. And not that he was dead, that was supposed to get people to think he was, but it never said he. So, yeah, it's not like it was misinformation.
Could see Elijah Sotis being elevated to the 22. If so, Harry Jones seems like the type to make way.
Wait, is Sotis the one I gave the nickname to?
Oh, God, what do you call
Varna or
yes,
Varner?
Yes, Varna. Yes, well, we were thinking just something related to saws and sawdust.
And then I came up with Husqvarna.
Yes. Well, kind of in the vein of Jack Vinda Lukosius.
Yeah. This one's a little bit more of a reach, but that's why I like it.
Well, it's like how Reg is a reach for Zach Toohey. I think that was Sam Doherty who gave the name to him, just because it reminded him of Reg Cattermole, which is a deep cut from Harry Potter in and of itself.
The more obscure reference, the better, so I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Start naming players after, SpongeBob background characters.
Okay, which one's Nancy Susie Fish? Or are you just going with, the list of unnamed incidentals?
That is exactly what I'm looking at.
I mean, some of them do end up getting names.
Big fan of Incidental 65. Incidental 70, I think, is the Hey SpongeBob's back guy.
There are a lot of good ones here. I like it when some of these names actually become canon. Like Fred became such a prominent incidental for one line that they literally made an episode around it.
Actually good and recent SpongeBob. That's hard. There's not a lot of good recent SpongeBob. That episode was one of them.
Yes, and the episode, of course, is titled My Leg!
Sydney's favored by 30.5. I know they're playing well and Essendon's banged up, but just knowing the matchup history here, I'd drop this one to, 25.
I mean, going off the history, you'd expect some sort of weirdness in the conclusion. There was a really questionable, deliberate call, I think, against McLean that led to the last goal last year. And then, of course, McLean got a gift in another game. Well, he had gotten one earlier in the year. He was the one that got the free kick at a 50 for the North interchange breach.
See, figuring out who got the goal out of that is easily the most forgettable part. It was just everything else.
Well, you probably remember who it was that that came off and caused it?
No,
It was Liam Shields because he was cramping. And this is a double up this year. So Essendon will host the reverse fixture in round 23 out at Marvel Stadium.
that's a game that tends to be more at the G than Marvel. Interesting.
They met at Marvel last year. Swans already have, I think, 3 trips to the G, though.
That's like as many as Taylor Swift, or is it one more?
No, it's as many as Taylor Swift. I think Sydney and Port Adelaide have as many home and away trips as Taylor Swift had concerts there last month.
We get our first kind of alternate site game of the year.
Yeah, round 2, and we're going out to Ballarat?
I'm all for it. It's just nice that in the last couple of years, Ballarat has gotten good games altogether.
And the weather looks like it should be very pleasant. Highs in the high 60s Fahrenheit, so close to 20 Celsius, I think 19 or so. Reasonable wind, just good timing, I guess, for this time of year. So maybe we'll see it again. They've had a round 4 game there in the past, a few years back when the Dogs hosted the Lions there. But yeah, this is the earliest round we've ever gone out to Ballarat. And this is the 3rd time, though, that the Dogs and Suns are going to play out there. And the Dogs have won the first 2 meetings.
I mean, it feels like a Ballarat game.
It feels like an alternate site game. Helps that it was an alternate site game last year.
Well, the alternate site last year was in Darwin, but yeah, they played in Ballarat in 2022, also 2018. Remember the thing with a stadium like this that I always talk about?
The wind is a lot more of a factor.
Yes. Smaller stands means less to interfere with wind.
And wind could get around 19, 20 kilometers or so.
Which isn't that crazy, but it's enough that you feel like it could be a factor in a game like this. So just keep that in mind if there's accuracy issues.
I mean, definitely was the case. Was it last year that the Dogs played the Crows there, or 2022? Yeah, that was 2022. They've actually played in Ballarat of the Bulldogs and Crows 4 times in the past 5 years, and the Crows haven't hosted the Dogs since 2018. Wow. Makes it even weirder then that they decided to put Port against the Dogs in the last year.
That's 3.
4, I think. I think I did it twice early on. So about that Darwin game last year, a 7-point win for the Suns as they scored all 4 goals of the 4th quarter. Matt Rowell did it all in his 50th game. 5 goals for Jack Vinda Lukosius, who humiliated the now delisted Tim O'Brien.
I just want to know, did the broadcasters call it, a famous win?
Oh, probably. Because of the Suns.
No, it's just, especially, a late comeback or something is always a famous win.
Yeah, and Jared Witt outdid Tim English that game. How about 17 hitouts to advantage? The big takeaway that we had structurally from that game is one that'll sound familiar if you were listening to our round 1 recap, which I hope you have. If you haven't, definitely go back and listen to it. The Dogs defenders just did not communicate well. They looked lost. A lot. And you can't just use it's a bigger ground as an excuse. It happened at the G all the same on Sunday.
Yeah, just sequences where guys missed assignments, where it looked like guys weren't even hustling. Just not pretty.
Yeah, I think it was the Alex Neil Bowen goal that stood out.
Yes, that was the one.
Yeah, very nice roller at the end by Neil Bowen, but the setup should not have been as easy as it was. And so, do we see some changes then in terms of defense for the Dogs?
Probably not. I mean, I guess you could go with Taylor Duray or former cricketer Alex Keith.
Well, you can't put in former cricketer Jimmy O'Donnell because he got concussed in the VFL.
I guess VFL games were just, exhibition games, basically. They didn't count.
Yeah, scratch matches this past week, but O'Donnell got concussed. Important to note, Jack McRae did get through that well, so you'd imagine he'd be in.
Which is my logic at this point is it's the Bulldogs. Who knows what the hell they're going to do?
Who knows if they're even going to promote Sam Darcy after a 5-goal showing.
Why was he down in the VFL?
I don't know. Maybe they were just still having him try to come back from injury and I don't know. I was confused. I mean, you've got some flexibility there in the talls with guys like him and Buku Kamas. I'm hoping that Buku isn't the sacrifice that's made after showing decently at center half back, our friend of a friend of the show.
Yeah, I mean, towards the, he had a bad play in garbage time and the game was already over. So hopefully the coaches don't go oh, that shows, he had checked out early. When, you have far more troubling, low effort plays from other guys.
Well, they would probably have given James Harms another chance, but he's suspended.
Yeah, he headbutted Stephen May, and honestly, You know what the basic white girl tattoo says, right? Not everyone you lose is a loss.
With how he played last week, this isn't a loss.
I hate to say that because I like James Harms. I really do. I think he's an awesome guy.
Got amazing teeth.
Yeah, but
Look,
give a shit.
if John Amos likes you, you're probably a pretty good person. But yeah, he was not great. Far from it.
I can tell you, see, one of the things, if one of my favorite players has a bad game, I will not lie about it. I will not mince words.
No, you point out Brian Myers' mistakes very quickly, as Brian Harambe looks at me. Hey, buddy. Of course, one of the changes that I expect for this is with McRae coming in, I bet Riley Sanders goes out.
I think that's highly unlikely, just listening to how Beveridge just talked about him.
Look, he got subbed out. This is the Bulldogs.
I know, and this is a team that does stupid things, but that one just seems very unlikely.
I don't know, maybe, downgraded to the sub then. Look, we expect something stupid.
Yeah, still, there's levels to it, and I don't think that's one.
The mind is so complex when you're Luke Beveridge. 32 levels. Welcome to his world.
That's good.
If anybody gets that, you are based. I had a lot of positives to say about Harvey Gallagher on debut as well, roping around the forward half. So hopefully he just keeps getting his opportunities too. Like maybe not like one super solid spot for him. Like saw him, I guess, more on the outside, but capable on the interior too. Good motor.
We did end up giving the polished turd to Jason Johannesson, but yeah, Gallagher was definitely a plus. He had like one defensive mistake throughout the day, but overall, he was not the issue.
No.
If this is your first time listening, I'm very critical of the Bulldogs because they have all the talent in the world and have no clue how to deploy it.
So, Bevo, if you're listening, got some advice. We actually think we know what we're talking about. Please actually study the film.
On Gold Coast side, we also have a headbutting suspension. Now, this one happened off camera, so it wasn't like the obvious, like, oh, he go and get it.
Yeah, but once we saw it, we knew he got it.
Yeah, that being Malcolm Rosas,
who had gotten off to a really good start.
One of those guys that I put on the list of like, is he the best player? No, but he's exciting. And if people want to, he'll get a little bit more attention than other players of his talent level because he's exciting, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe they'll move Darcy McPherson out of the sub role. You could stick him at half forward. I would just throw Joel Jeffrey in.
Yeah, Jeffrey, though, has been more steady at a half-back spot. And he's, bulkier than Rosas, not really as agile. More of a kind of strong overhead mark. Is definitely not a like for like, especially when you've got Levi Casbolt in there, too. Unfortunately, we won't see Lloyd Johnson, who I think might have been your sleeper, Ethan.
Yeah, I thought there was some potential there, like when I watched him late in the year last year. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. He is going to be out about another month.
Yeah. Thankfully, Alex Davies, who is part Japanese, and we remember how excited his grandfather was to be there a couple years ago. He's able to return from his hamstring, and we are definitely on debut watch now for Academy graduates Jed Walter and Jake Rogers, as they are available for selection after getting through their collarbone and back injuries, respectively. Ethan, if I'm not mentioning this guy for the Suns, I know you are.
Mac Andrew?
Of course. They need a bit more defensive stability there, and it just kind of makes sense to get him back in. He's also trialed at forward over the summer, but I think you got the situation resolved there, especially with Walter coming in. How do you feel about this line? Dogs by 8.5.
I'm just so critical of the Dogs right now that I'm going to favor the Suns.
Would you put even Suns on the money line?
Yeah, I'd put it as like a slight money line favorite. It will be fun.
Analyzing all the list errors.
Well, here's the question. Who gets Rattle? Is it Bond or Libba?
Libba.
Either way, that's going to be awesome.
A midfield demolition derby is on the way. Are the Central Highlands ready? That early Sunday game is going to be 1 p.m. local time, so 12 p.m. for the Queensland crowd. For Americans, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. 3 hours later, so into early Sunday on the East Coast of the U.S., 1 a.m. Eastern. For us, 10 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. in Victoria, specifically at the G, you got the near perennial double-up now of Richmond and Port. And this is a Fox Sports 2 game. Last year, Port swept the doubleheader despite a 4-goal performance from Tim Taranto in round 11, and Port winning without a multiple goal kicker. which nobody had done in a game with full 20-minute quarters in over 4 years. Then in the closing round last year, Richmond had definitely checked out a good bit. A lot of inaccuracy, but Port broke away with 5 goals in the fourth. And Frank the Tank Evans had 3 straight, including a check side soccer in the goal square, which I forget if that won goal of the week, but I think it was our pick. And Evans could definitely come back in as a logical replacement for the concussed Jed McEntee. He had been the sub last week. Obviously, there's an individual storyline here.
Ivan Soldo's first game against Richmond.
Yeah, a rookie pick in 2015, 57 games. Took a long time for him to get there just because it's not like he was going to get much time when he had Toby Nankervis and Tom Lynch there, especially as someone who can flex forward. He was really behind Lynch in that respect. Did manage to get in for the 2019 Grand Final, so has a premiership medal for that. And Soto was off to a very good start last week. I know you were pretty complimentary of him.
Yeah, I thought he was good. It was one of those weird games where I thought, like, hey, both ruckmen played pretty well. Like, Soldo had the better of the hit-outs and got a couple goals, but I was also pretty impressed with what Bailey J. Williams was able to do, getting clearances and kicking a goal off of a throw-in.
Soldo against Nankervis will be fun. With Ivan having been the understudy for so long, maybe he has, a bit more insight, almost like how Brody Grundy was able to get to Max Gawn just from knowing his style in the opening round. I know one of your favorite youngsters for Port is still a good ways away from playing, Ethan, that being Ollie Lord, who is dealing with some knee and tibia injuries. His timeline is now clear, so it's going to be about 2 months for him.
On Richmond's side, we know that Dion Prestia is going to be out for we don't know how long, but he pulled his hamstring. He has an eagle hamstring.
We know that we don't know.
Yes.
Who are we? Donald Rumsfeld? There are known unknowns.
Sure. I have no idea what you're referencing, but yes. Tyler Sonzi finished serving his suspension. Remember last year he punched a guy in the head in the VFL?
Yeah, I forgot the guy's name. It was Tom Capillari from North.
How long was the actual suspension other than not long enough?
I think it was reduced from 7 to 3 because it was deemed that it wasn't severe impact.
It was.
Yeah, he should not be available yet.
Yeah, there are spots for Richmond to replace. Tyler Young is out concussed, which funny because it didn't look bad at the time,
which is why you do the tests.
Yeah, and then Jack Graham's out another 2 to 3 weeks,
and obviously you got to make up for Josh Gibcus being out too. So all the talk about Richmond's youngsters in defense is between Young and Gibcus. Now both of them are out against a team with all sorts of tall capabilities, and Charlie Dixon being able to just out-muscle veteran Eagles backline this past week. So, Ben Miller, good luck. Where did he go from there? Did he move Jacob Kaczynski back? Tom Brown? It's going to be an interesting list watch there, and we'll get to know how Adam Uze ranks these different spots. We'll get a bit more sense of his depth chart.
I would think McKelty Lafau needs more time.
Yeah, I mean, Lafau can go more in the middle. I think if we have someone who's kind of trying to replace Presti on the middle right now, I'd say Jack Ross would be more suitable for that.
You know my opinion.
Hugo Ralph Smith.
Well, that or Steely Green.
Yeah, that's more of a small forward issue there. I think Seth Campbell's got his spot secure there. It's not an issue in the forward third right now. It's kind of filling in the gaps elsewhere. So would love to see Banks get an opportunity, whether it's outside mid or back in the defensive 50. I thought of somebody like James Trezise, but he's also more of a ball mover. It's just kind of the steadier backs where Richmond is going to really have their depth tested.
Like I've said with Ralph Smith in particular, it's like if you want to keep going with the versatility, which I think this list is built for, he is good for that. I know he had his struggles at times last year, but he definitely brings you speed and versatility.
Port are favored by 12.5, and I would push this out further.
I did like how Richmond played last week. I wouldn't put this out. I'd put this out, what, maybe 18.5? That's about what I'd do.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I was thinking around 20 because I just have so much concern about the look in the Port forward 50. Look, if Charlie Dixon had managed to kick straight, well, Dixon, Marshall, and Finlayson, they could have easily inflicted a triple-digit defeat against West Coast, and we've got similar concerns in the back for their opponents this week. Speaking of the Eagles, they're closing out the round last year playing against the Giants round 2 worked.
Yeah, they won a game. Remember that?
Yeah, they won a few. Like 3 is enough to call a few, I think.
Yeah, I think a few is generally 3 to 5 is always how I've seen it.
Yeah, I guess with 6, you start getting towards several or a handful. It was a 19-point win for the Eagles. They answered the Giants' pressure really well. 4-goal game from Jake Waterman, who I know was an Eagle that caught your eye and your limited watching last week.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job. Just like setting up teammates, was very fluid in action in the forward 50, whether he was finishing or part of the movement. Either way, he was just like in sync with everyone.
And I thought of that of Jack Petrocelli as well, or maybe like you usually think of that a bit more, but Petrocelli was more at the end of things last week with his 3-goal showing. I want him to really be able to use his speed. And I would love to see for Jermaine Jones to come back in. He was best on ground in that game in round 2 last year. And I think his speed could help kind of break things up. Couple other things going for the Eagles going into this. The home team has won 6 straight meetings, and the Eagles have won all 4 meetings out at Optus Stadium, where they will be at 3:50 p.m. local time on Sunday. So 6:50 p.m. for the Pacific states of Australia, not you, Queensland, 5:50 for you. For Americans, 3:50 a.m. Eastern, 12:50 a.m. Pacific. And now on to the bad news for the Eagles.
They have to play a game and that people are going to have to watch them.
Worse, that somebody can't play for them. As if Elijah Hewitt's stress injury wasn't enough, now the man for whom even Ethan would run through a wall on a wooden spoon team, Oscar Allen, has bone stress in his knee. Timeline is to be confirmed. Channel 7 reported it's 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And after all the good work that Bailey J. Williams did in the ruck last week, it probably means he's got to go forward. Or actually does he? Because it's not like Allen got much delivery last week. It's a weird case where the talls weren't the big answer last week.
Was that supposed to be a pun?
No, it wasn't. But seriously, though, the talls didn't get much of the action in the forward 50 last week. Allen only got a couple chances and ended up, retreating upfield to be part of the delivery. But then you got this great one-on-one defender duo for GWS in Sam Taylor and Jack Buckley. So pick your poison, I guess.
I just want to mention, over the course of the last year, how much I've grown to appreciate Jack Buckley, because I didn't really think much of him until probably mid-season last year, and now I think he's just established himself as a really good defender.
I mean, he had that before. I think it's just been forgotten because he missed all of 2022. And yeah, I believe based on a number of data analyses, he was rated as the number 1 one-on-one defender in the AFL last year, despite sharing a back 50 with Sam Taylor.
Well, does that adjust for matchups? Because Taylor's usually drawing the tougher matchup.
I would hope that it does. I'm not sure. Would love to kind of get into some of the details. I would love to kind of pick the brains of the people who make analysis, who make these sorts of algorithms for things like champion data.
Now, I do want to say real quick, it's way too early for these things, and it's tough to overreact to a couple games. But I will say this. Premiership teams, there is a clear difference between a premiership defense and everyone else's defense. And through 2 games, and again, 2 games,
and with what we know from last year as well,
this looks the part of a premiership defense.
And the Giants look to be healthy and perhaps unchanged for this week, because Cooper Hamilton and Darcy Jones got us through the VFL practice match, but looks like both will be continuing in the 2s. Jones has been talked about as another fast sort of flanking half forward, so as if defenses needed another headache when they already have the combination of Toby Green, Toby Bedford, and Brent Daniels.
I hope that the Eagles prepare for this game by just picking Jason Gilby's brain on everything.
Well, he is the milkman. This is going to be a baptism by fire for Harley Reid on the inside up against Tom Green.
I mean, as long as he can handle the mental side of it, that's what you want.
Welcome to the AFL, motherfucker. GWS are favored by 45.5. If there's anybody who can put 200 on the Eagles this year, I think it's these guys.
We never got through goal and mark of the week from last week, which I meant to do. A couple of the nominees, they fucked up on.
Yeah, they didn't nominate Sam Switkowski's over the head goal, which I think we both labeled that as our winner. So I guess then otherwise it would go to
Jeremy Cameron.
I don't know. I love Kazi's for kind of the full play. So this is a tough call. Don't yet have the winner for those. I think we already went over that the opening round winner was Jacob Van Rooyen's accidental bicycle. The Mark of the Year nominees for round 1. Yeah, we did mention all of them. Jai Annis, Bobby Rachol, and Josh Wetta.
Think Weddle's my pick.
Think so too, but I'm not,
I still think Toby Green's like classic hanger was the best one.
I can be swayed in kind of any direction for this. So
Annis was good, and it was important because, it was the very end of the half. But yeah, I think I'm going to lean Weddle here. And then on goal, who was the other one that was nominated? Yeah, there were Frio fans saying that Frederick's kick on the run from outside 50 should have been in, but I thought Switkowski's was better.
The other goal nominee was one of Josh Rochelle's. Okay.
It was pretty late in the game. I didn't think it was that special.
Maybe just kind of the snap in the rain, quick pickup. I mean, good goal, but didn't think anything like super impressive. Didn't think when I saw it, oh, that's a nominee. Main character pick for this week, Ethan. Quick.
Main character for this week. I'm going with a Stilly one again. I'm not sure what to go with. Ooh, a couple weeks ago, we could have gone with, or actually, was it this past week, the Sky Cam or Spider Cam or whatever? Was that this past week?
Yeah, I think it was.
That's the other thing that could have done it over Brian, but I think Brian got talked about more, so I think it should be Brian, and not just because I'm biased here.
Yeah, the Spider Cam or the Flying Fox or whatever they want to call it on different networks.
Let's see. What am I going with? A woman in the crowd is going to get caught on camera flashing the player.
As soon as you said a woman in the crowd, it's just like, I know where your mind's gone. And I'm going to stay on the playing side, and I'm going to go with Luke Pedler, because if I think that there's anybody who can kind of break up Geelong's defense just with physicality, which I would love to see them bring as Tom Stewart plays his 150th game, just kind of see the opposition do that. I think Pedler would be the guy. Congratulations also to Travis Boak, will join the exclusive 350 game club this week. There's a lot to get into there. This is probably a longer preview, but I think that was fun. You can find our thoughts on all things footy and Australian culture, I guess, as we'll probably mention Australian players in the NCAA Tournament at Americans Footy on Twitter. We're also on Instagram and YouTube at that handle.
I'm on Twitter at Castle Media.
I'm at Benjamin HK01, and Brian Harambe is kind of spread out sleeping on the bed now at Ethan's feet. He is at Cat Named Brian, and I will do my best to not disturb his slumber as I walk out. Goodbye.